Welcome to the Green Man Workshop. That's the Green Man. I'm the Green Man. This is the workshop which I built from genuine wood from trees and metal nails. If you want to know how I did it and what I'm going to do inside it, like, subscribe, click anything you want, because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't expect you to. Come on and join me in the Green Man Workshop. So here is the garden. It's been cleared and there's a man working in the garden. That isn't me. He's much younger, much slimmer, much fitter. So you'll see this chap doing his thing. To put in ground anchor screws for the foundations. I thought long and hard about how to do the foundations on the Green Workshop, and these screws from the company called No More Digging, which I think is a pretty cool name for a company, saved me an awful lot of time. Gave me a fantastic base for the workshop, which you'll see. So there's a picture of the screws. They're a good sort of 3 foot long, very strong. When they're driven deep into the ground, they're absolutely rock solid. It costs a lot less than it would have done to get a contractor to come and put concrete in. Plus we didn't have the access around the back for like a mini digger or whatever, so I didn't fancy hand digging it all out. And this was another alternative which I think worked fantastic. You know, they use these on things like mobile classrooms. People have their home offices, which are very popular nowadays. So this was just one way of doing it, and it gave me a completely square, absolutely accurate square and level platform to start the foundations of the workshop. You'll also see there is my lazy spa in the garden, which I should have really got out of the way. But it was quite warm at that time of year. It doesn't look it on the video. So here's someone else that isn't me. I did do some work on this project, I promise you. I had to carry all the wood to the back of the house, which is the reason I kept the spa. If you'd like details of what wood I used, comment below and I'll happily provide that. I had another delivery later on for the rest of the structure, which you'll see in subsequent videos. So this is a guy doing his thing, and we'll see a bit more of me in a minute. And here I come. I call this look the man in an apron look. There's a reason for it. It's to do with I needed all my different types of drills and nails and screws to hand, and not having a tool belt to put them in. That's how I decided to do it. So look, there's me rummaging around in my pocket trying to get bits out to screw the frame. This is what we're seeing here, is the outside frame of the floor of the workshop, which I'm trying to screw together and make absolutely square. There are some sleepers on the left, which if you watch my next video, which is about building the walls in a rather unusual way, you'll see how I use those sleepers to construct my rather unique workshop. Most other how to build a workshop videos you'll see on YouTube show people building the walls first, or they put the floor and then they build the walls flat on the ground and then lift them into place and screw them together. I was trying to build this on my own, and I didn't have anyone to help me lift great big walls. So that's why I did it in a slightly different way. I also needed it to be extremely strong because the roof of this workshop is a living roof. It's a sedum roof, and they can be quite heavy. So I needed to make sure it was strong enough to support the green roof. It might appear to you that I'm spending an awful long time on one corner, but it was really important to get the base absolutely square because the way I'm building it, it needed to be completely square otherwise the whole thing would be compromised. So I'm taking a long time on this first corner at least to get it right, and then you'll see the technique I use later on to square up the whole thing. I'm going off to get myself another one of the big screws I need to securely fix the framework, and the right size drill. There's the big screw, there's the drill. I drove those in with an impact driver. I drilled a pilot drill first, and then put them in with an impact driver on the end. So the weed fabric's down there because obviously I don't want a lot of weeds growing up and out the side of the workshop. It's important to get the floor right because with heavy machinery inside, I want to have inside the workshop all my tool benches should be able to roll around, so roller cabinets and that type of thing. So it needs to be flat. It needs to be solid. So it's the foundation of the rest of the workshop. So this is why it is taking a while to get this get it done right. The dreadful noise was the impact driver driving those big screws, lag bolts I think is another word for those big screws. I'm sorry about my pants, by the way, on this. It was either that or builder's bum, so you know, I think you've got off lightly. Finally got that corner done, and we move over to the front corner now, and we're trying to get that right. You can see the impact driver there and a cordless drill. They're not hugely expensive power tools. One was a Aldi special. The other one I got from another local DIY shop, but they're not professional tools at all. However, they were up to the task of doing this whole thing. So it's not always necessary to go out and spend a huge amount of money on professional grade power tools. The other corner that's a better view of the wood resting on the screw, on the ground screw. The ground screws have the big circular tops to them, which are completely level in every direction. So that made life easy for me just to rest my floor on. It looks as if they're balanced right on the edge of the screw tops, if you like. There's a reason for that because this is going to be there's going to be another layer of wood on the inside eventually. So I'm getting the outside timbers square first of all, and then you'll see later on I put another layer on the inside, so it's two timbers thick. They're 2x4 timbers, C24 timber I think that is for the floor, and it having two round the edge gives it the strength it needs. So it looks like it's balancing on the edge. If I'd centered them on the middle of the screw, I would end up with the circular tops sticking out from the edge of the workshop, which I didn't want that. I wanted the outside paneling to be able to come down on the outside of the floor. Some quality drilling action there. The first hole was a clearance hole in the front timber, and this second one the second one is a pilot hole for the lag bolt. So that goes in like that, goes through the first timber, and then it bites into the second one, pulling them together. That's the sort of technique, things like this, which if you subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my channel, be deafened by impact drivers, but you will also learn how little techniques like that, like how to drill a clearance hole through one piece and a pilot hole in the other, so that pulls the timbers together and locks them in exactly the right position. If you're wondering what the sticks are at the end on the right hand side, those are bits of a tree that I had to chop down, or two trees in fact I had to chop down to clear the area to put the workshop on. It was a bit of an unused part of the garden because it was all overgrown and there was two big horrible conifers that were shading everything, so I chopped those down, and I'm keeping the wood because, you know, green workshop and whatever, you don't waste anything. Checking the square, got to get that right, as I said before, and at this point it's still, I can still wiggle it into position, and when the second pieces of timber go in, it locks it up much more firmly, so it's harder to move. So I'm trying to get it right at the beginning. For both power tools I'm using, I have two batteries. That's one thing I would always recommend, having two batteries for your tool, because if you're using one and it just cuts out on you, you don't want to have to stop work and wait, you know, for it to charge up again. So have a spare one which you can then plug straight in and then put the other one on charge. So now we're getting to the checking the squareness. So what you do, you measure from one corner to the other across the diagonal, make a note of that measurement, and then you'll see in a moment I'll measure across the other diagonal to check that they're the same. And if they're the same, you know you've got two triangles that are equal, therefore your base is square. This is where I could have done with someone else helping me. Yeah. There's nothing worse than a floppy tape measure. So here, this is tricky. So what I could just do with somebody grabbing on the other end of that and holding it for me. Yeah, that sounded wrong. So we'll forget that bit. The floor joists are going in. You can see we've had some typical British weather, so it's all covered up to protect it from the rain. And that's a screw going in there, and this is the next one. Look at that line there. It's precision work. Here's the big coach screws going in, and you can see they go right into the floor joists, give them a lot of strength. And they'll be drilled with a clearance hole on the outer two pieces of wood, and then that will bite into the floorboard. Of course I didn't mean floorboard, I mean floor joist, and you will see it pull the joist tight against the frame in a second. Next step is getting some insulation between those floor joists. The noggins are the bits of wood that go across, and then the insulation goes between there. Very easy to cut with a handsaw. And then I put expanding foam around any little cracks around the side, just to make sure there was no drafts coming up through the floor, because you've got to get the floor done right, because I don't want to be taking the floor up to put insulation in at a later date. Some jobs you need to do right at the beginning. I wish I could work this fast in real life. So I'm drilling countersunk holes, and I decided to both screw and nail the boards, as well as having the polyurethane glue underneath, so that they don't start moving. Alas, poor Yorick! I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest.